A bomb was blasted. In that bomb, they also lost their home, and the three children was thrown into the street. They lost their home, they lost their father, and they did not have any place to live, and they have to come on the street. The walls is built with the stones where you cannot see anything. It is completely covered. It looks like a hospital as well as the villa both together. Hello everyone, I am Babita Tama, lecturer, Department of English, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. In my previous session, I had discussed about the two gentlemen of Verona, session 1. What happened in session 1? Here, the two boys, that is Niccolo and Jacopo, were selling strawberries and berries on the outskirts of Verona, and they had stopped the driver as well as the narrator to buy the berries. But the driver stops the narrator from buying by looking into the appearance. Not only this, they were doing other business also to earn their living. The two boys had lots of responsibility and they struggled a lot to earn the living. And at last, when the narrator is about to leave back to his hometown, so he just questions the two boys, is that anything I can help you out before I leave? So Jacopo says, yes, on every Sundays we go to Palata, which is 30 kilometers away from the city, and we take a bicycle, but this time as you are here, can you please take us there? Niccolo gets wild, he bites his lip, and at last he agrees. Now let's see what happens in session 2, where the narrator is taking the two boys whom they are going to visit. What is the story behind the two boys for their struggle or for the responsibility whatever they have taken? Let's begin the session. So, village side. Now, the author is taking the two boys, that is Niccolo and Jacopo, towards the Palata, which is 30 kilometers away from the Verona city. The following afternoon, we drove to the tiny, picturesque square village set high upon the hillside amidst sheltering chestnut groves with a few pines on the upper slopes and a deep blue lake beneath. So now they are traveling towards the Palata on the hillside. On both the sides you can see the hills and the groves, few pines and the slopes upper and the blue lake beneath. While traveling you can see all these things. He is just explaining how the route looked like. I imagined that our destination would be some humble dwelling, but directed by Jacopo's shrill treble, we drive up to a large red roof villa surrounded by a high stone wall. So the way as they were driving towards the Palata, the author imagined that they are going to some village, some small place or some small house. But as they directed towards the route, that is Jacopo is telling the narrator about the route, and later when they entered the village, that is the red roofed villa, when they entered there, the narrator is very shocked to see that, because he thought that he is going to some village, but when they came to a large roof villa surrounded by a high stone wall, it is really a shocking for the narrator. It is a big building and you can see the walls with the stones. It is the walls is built with the stones where you cannot see anything. It is completely covered. It looks like a hospital as well as the villa both together. I could scarcely believe my eyes, and before I could recover, my two passengers had leaped nimbly from the car. So here the author, the narrator, he couldn't believe that by looking into the red roofed villa. So before he come out of that shock, what the two passengers, the two boys did, they just jumped out of the car and he couldn't find them. They already moved out of the car. The two boys jumped and they were already out of the car. We shall not be long, sir. Perhaps only an hour. Maybe you would like to go to the cafe in the village for a drink. So what the two boys are saying, the two boys are telling the narrator, you will not be too very late, but until the time we come back, there is a cafe where you can go and have a drink. So, and they also says that it takes an half an hour. Within half an hour, we'll come back. By the time you can have a drink. They disappeared behind the corner of the wall. When a few minutes had elapsed, I followed. I found a grill side entrance and determinedly rang the bell. So the two boys told, you can go and have a drink in that village by the time we will come back. So I told, and both the boys were disappeared. Where they disappeared beyond the corner of the wall. They disappeared on the corner of the wall. And after a few minutes, what did the narrator do? The narrator followed the grill side entrance. There was a grill. Near there, he just goes there and he just tried to enter inside the grill and he started to ring the bell of the house. A pleasant looking woman with a ruby complexion and steel-rimmed spectacles appeared. So when the narrator starts to ring the bell, who is coming? A woman, a pleasant-looking woman with a ruby complexion, and he had on her spectacles also. So I blinked as I saw she was dressed in the white uniform of a trained nurse. So the woman who comes near the door, when the bell rings, and here the narrator is shocked to see that the woman who was dressed up, it was like a nurse. The way she was dressed, she was looking like a nurse. She was in her white uniform and she looked like a trained nurse. And now the narrator is wondering why this lady is here, why this nurse is here, and why did the two boys come to this house? What is happening here? I just brought two small boys here. Narrator, the author tells the nurse or the woman who opened the door, saying that just now I had brought two boys here. Where are they? Yes, her face lit up. She opened the door to amid me, Niccolo and Jacopo. I will take you. So when the narrator says, just now I had brought two boys, where are they? Then she have a smile on her face. Oh, she opens the door and she says, Niccolo and Jacopo, yes, they are here. Come, I will take you there. She led me through a cool, tiled vestibule into the hospital, for hospital the villa had become. We traversed a waxed and polished corridor between well-equipped wards. We went upstairs to a southern balcony which opened to a vista of the gardens and the lake. Now the woman, she is just trying to take the narrator into the place there inside the house. And she led the author through a cool tiled vestibule into the hospital. So the villa has turned into the hospital. Half it is a villa and the other half is like a hospital. She just takes him into the villa which is converted towards the hospital, and we traversed a waxed and a polished corridor with well-equipped wards. So here when you enter into the hospital, how the hospital will be? How will be the infrastructure? In the same way, the villa was maintained. There was a cupboards, walls were well equipped, everything, whatever the facilities the hospital wants, everything was constructed, or it was in the same way. The villa was changed into a hospital in the same way how the hospital looked like. We went upstairs to the southern balcony. She took him to the southern balcony where she opened the vista. From there they can see the garden and the lake. On the threshold of a cubicle, the nurse paused, but her fingers to her lips, and with a smile bade me look through the glass partition. So now when they were walking towards the threshold of the cubicle, the nurse is pausing. The nurse stopped there and she keeps her finger on the lips, saying the narrator not to speak, to be silent, to keep quiet. With a smile on her face, me through the glass partition. So what did he do? There was a small glass there. He just peeped at the glass, the partition of the glass, what is happening inside. The two boys were seated at the beside of a girl of about 20. So the two boys, whom the narrator had brought? The narrator had brought Niccolo and Jacopo. So he can find the two boys seated there beside the girl. There was a girl who was about 20 years, who propped out on pillows, wearing a pretty lace jacket, was listening to their chatter, her eyes soft and tender. When he saw her, what she was doing, what she was wearing, how she was to look, she was lying. She has just kept the pillow on the back and she was leaning upon that, and she had on a pretty lace jacket, and these two boys was listening to her chatter, and her eyes look soft and tender. So now the question, who is she? Why did the two boys come to meet her on every, or why do they come on every Sundays to Palat to meet this girl? What is the relationship between them? How is she related? Despite the faint flush high upon her cheekbones and the queer inertness of her postures, one could discern at a glance her resemblance to her brothers. The narrator is, by looking into her posture, the way they were chatting and looking into their resemblance, now the narrator is questioning the nurse, are these two boys related to the girl? The girl is their sister, how they are related? A vase of wildflowers stood on her table beside a dish of fruit and several books. So beside there was a table, and what was placed? Wildflowers was placed on the table. Beside that there was a fruit bowl as well as several books, because her sister was hospitalized. Now she is in the hospital and the table is set with the vase and some fruits as well as books to read. She explained, quite alone in the world except for this sister, Lucia. Their father, a widower, a well-known singer at La Scala, had been killed in the early part of the war. Now, the nurse is explaining, or the nurse is saying the story about the two boys. What is the story behind this? Who is she and how she is related to the two boys? So, she explains, the girl whom you have seen right now, so she is the sister of the two brothers known as Lucia. She is a Lucia. And their father was a widower. The two brothers and the sister, they were the three kids, three siblings, and their father was a widower, and he was a well-known singer also. He was a widower as well as a singer at La Scala. And what happened to his father? He was killed during the time of war. During the time of the war, the three kids lost their father. Already he was a widower and he was a good singer, and he lost his life in the war, and the three kids had to come to the street because there was no one to take care of them. Shortly afterward, a bomb had destroyed their home and thrown the three children into the street. They lost their father. Later on, what happened? Afterwards, a bomb was blasted. In that bomb, they also lost their home, and the three children was thrown into the street. They lost their home, they lost their father, and they did not have any place to live, and they have to come on the street. They had always known as comfortable and cultured life. Lucia had herself been training as a singer, and they had suffered horrible from near starvation and exposure to the cold Veronese winter. So the nurse is telling they had known the comfortable and cultured life. So when their father was there, they were very cultured, they were comfortable, they were happy living family. But because of this war, everything was scattered into pieces. And here, before that, their sister Lucia, she was getting trained, or she was being trained as a singer. But everything was shattered into pieces when the bomb was blast. They never knew the struggle in their life. They have never seen all such things, but now they're struggling a lot to earn their living, and they have a lot of responsibility right now. Horrible from near starvation and exposure to the cold Veronese winter. So they have struggled a lot for food also. They have starved their life because there was no one to take care. They had barely kept themselves alive in a sort of shelter they built with their own hands amidst the rubble. Then the German Elite Guard established headquarters in Verona. So here what happens? They barely kept themselves alive in a sort of shelter. They themselves built a house, the small house, and they took the shelter over there. But what happened at that time? At that time, the German Elite Guard, they established their headquarters at Verona. Again, it is a 1-mark question. So, who established their headquarters in Verona? It is the German Elite Guard established their headquarters. The boys grew to hate those harsh, unwanted masters, and when the resistance movement began secretly to form, they were among the first to join. It was not a matter of playing war. So what happened? What did the boys do in the sense? The two boys grew hate those hands. That is the German elite. They hate them to the core, unwanted, and during the time of the resistance movement which began secretly, the two boys, that is Niccolo and Jacopo, were the first one to join them. Because they never liked them, they hate them to the core, and they were the first one to join the resistance movement which began secretly. It was not a matter of playing war. So whatever the thing it has happened, it is not the play thing. They cannot play. It is something serious during the time of the war. Their extreme youth and insignificant size, added to an intimate knowledge of the neighboring hills, made them immensely valuable. They were used to carry messages to the forces of liberation and, more dangerous still, to referate out information on the movements of the German troops. What did the two boys do? So during this time, they joined the secret resistance movement. And what was the work they have to do here in the sense? They have to carry the message from here to there, and it was so risky, and the two boys came forward to do that. I need not to tell you how fine they were, these infants, how they went in the darkness through the mountains passes with letters in their shoes which might cause them to be shot, and when it was all over, we had peace at last. They came back to their beloved sister, and they found her suffering from tuberculosis of the spine, confronted during the miseries of the war. So she is just explaining what was the story behind it after they lost their house. So now she says, I don't want to tell you the story, each and everything. By looking into their house, by looking into the sister, you will get to know the complete story, how they were leading their life and what has happened after the bomb was blasted. These two infants, that is during the time of the darkness, they have to walk through the hills or pass through the hills to carry the letters. Where did they carry? They carried their letters inside their shoes. It was not so easy. It was a very difficult task. If they were caught, what they would have done? They would have killed these two boys. But they secretly took the message from one place to the other so very well, and they saved their life. After everything was over and they had got peace, and at last when they came back to their beloved sister, she was suffering from tuberculosis of spine. After sending the messages, that is, as they worked as joined the secret resistance movement, they passed the messages from here to there, and now they have come back to see their sister. But at that time, their sister was suffering from tuberculosis of spine. So this was during the miseries of the war. Did they give up? I do not have to answer that question. They brought her here, persuaded us to take her into the hospital. Now, who is saying this? Did they give up? The narrator is asking them, after everything happened, did they give up? Did they come out? How did they live life? How did they save it? They says, did they leave their sister? I do not have an answer to that. They brought her here. I don't have an answer to that question, but what did they do in the sense? The two brothers brought their sister to us and asked us to start with the treatment, to give the medicine. They asked us to do it. In the 12 months, she had been a patient. She has made good progress. There is every hope that one day she will walk and sing again. So the nurse is telling from 12 months, she has been a patient. From 12 months, nearly from an year, she is a patient. And we can see a lot of changes in her health, and that it means to say that she has good progress. We can see that she is getting recovered, and I hope if she recovered very fast, again she can walk and she can sing also. This is what the nurse said to the narrator. Of course, everything is so difficult now. Food so scarce and dear, we could not keep going unless we changed a fee. But every week, Lucia's brothers have made their payments. Now, the narrator is questioning, how did they do their payments? They were paying it regularly. Did they pay the amount? So, the nurse says, we could not keep going unless we charged a fee. So, they say that. The nurse said that we can take care of your sister unless you're going to pay the fees. You need to pay her treatment fees. So what did the two boys do? Every week or every Sundays, Lucia's brothers have done their payments. They have given their payments. They have done their payments on every Sundays. So what is the reason that they were coming to Palato or traveling towards Palato on every Sundays? The reason is that they need to pay the bill of the treatment. They have to pay the bills. So on every Sundays, these two boys would travel to Palato. I don't know what they do. I do not ask. Work is scarce in Verona, but whatever it is, I know they do it well. Now the nurse is telling, I don't know what they do. I don't know what is the job they have taken, what is the work they are doing. I don't want to ask them also. But they have lot of things to do in the Verona city. They can earn in one or the other way because they are staying in the Verona city. But whatever it is, I know that they will do it well. Whatever it is, I know that the two brothers will take care of the sister and they'll do the payments. They will never stand back. I waited outside until the boys rejoined me, then draw them back to the city. They sat beside me, not speaking, in a mood of quiet contentment. For my part, I did not say a word. I knew they would prefer to feel that they safely kept their secret. So the author got to know the complete picture about these two boys, why they were struggling so much, what was the responsibility behind their struggle. He got to know each and everything by the nurse. And what did the narrator do? Before the two boys come near the car, the narrator was already there. He was seated inside the car. Later, the two boys joined the narrator. Then the narrator took back them to the city, but both were seated beside without uttering a word. They kept quiet. Even the author also sat quietly without saying anything, and he also maintained the secret that he doesn't know anything about the two boys and what is the reason they have come here. War with its attendant horrors had not broken their spirit, and if an ultimately maturity has been forced upon them, at least they had accepted it with dignity and courage. Their selfless action brought a new nobility to human life, gave promise of a greater hope for human society. So what has happened here in the sense, because of the war, because of the bomb blast, they lost everything, even their father. Now their sister, who is a tuberculosis patient, and they have to spend a lot for her, and they have doing a lot of work to pay the bill of the hospital. So if it is some other kids, they would have drained out. They couldn't have taken such responsibility. But here, the two boys never left their sister. They had taken the responsibility of the sister, and now also they feel that their sister will recover and she can walk and she also can sing once she is ready. So they had lot of responsibility. What was the responsibility? They had taken the responsibility of their sister to be recovered. At least they had accepted it with dignity. They had accepted, they have taken the life to a dignity and courage. With lots of courage and dignity, they have moved forward, because if it was someone else, they couldn't have done anything. They would have gone into depression, but these two children did not do that. They stand behind their sister with a very strong and a brave hand. Their selfless action brought a new nobility to human life. So it is an impression, or by looking into these two boys, even there are many human beings who have to learn a lesson. It is a good message for each and human being or human life. Give promise of a greater hope for human society, and it is a promise as well as a greater message to the human society. That is all about Two Gentlemen of Verona. This is the glossary. You can just go through with your textbook, and from this chapter you can expect 1 marks as well as 4 marks questions. In my next session, I'll be discussing about the poem Do Not Ask of Me, My Love. Until then, have a good day. Thank you.